Hi guys, I hope you all saw that tomorrow we're going to try to do a video conferencing. I sent an email to you. So look in your email and you'll find an invite and you'll see a link to video conferencing. Click on that link and you should be in. So please look for that and let everyone know. I'll send out another message tomorrow on our um, classroom stream board as a reminder. All right, but be looking for that. So when we left off with our book, they were traveling to the funeral and they were being heckled by British supporters, loyalists to the American Revolution, or loyal to Britain and against the American Revolution. All right. Our arrival at the Blandfords comes as a welcome relief despite the tragic occasion. Townspeople clad in black fill the spacious lawn and surrounding fields. I nudge Penny, a gesture to the expansive crowd. Look at all these people. What fine mourners we are. Even the town crier himself is here to pay his respects. Wearing black crepe armbands, slaves bustle out of the kitchen house, struggling under bountiful trays of fine food. Within minutes, steaming platters of roasted ham, chicken, and beef fill the long tables. Mother surveys the throngs of people. What a fine tribute to Joseph, even if we couldn't be at their family church. She nods her head in approval. Aye, it appears every patriot in the Tidewater area has come. More slaves emerge from the cellar, rolling hogsheads of ale and cider in anticipation of thirsty crowds. The slave children scurry about carrying cornucopia baskets filled with sweet rolls and cakes. Regardless of the financial state of the bereaved, mourning is an expensive event. Tradition demands a generous spread, even if the well beyond the family's means, as it is for almost everyone these days. Perhaps without such distraction, the sadness would be too overwhelming to handle. I release a defeated sigh. Why does it feel like we were just at a funeral yesterday? Maybe Mr. Frederick was right. Perhaps the senseless deaths will never end, and the relentless Grim Reaper will wield murderous scythe until no men are left, including Stith and Alexander. I shudder that the Fredericks and I actually agree on one thing at least. We both despair over the waste of so many young lives. With slumped shoulders, Penny frowns. The last one was a fortnight ago, Benjamin Waters. I feel like yesterday because we seen so many. Her eyes mist over. Goodness gracious, I lost count a long time ago. The minister clears his throat and starts the ceremony in commanding, yet somber voice. I drift off into my own thoughts, shedding tears for Stith's best friend and yet another patriot lost. Of course, marrying Joseph could have been an ideal arrangement, despite the fact that he'd become a stranger of late. We shared too many ties to count. And Mr. Blandford was right. Chances are we would have had beautiful red-headed babies. I smile ruefully despite my watery eyes. I might have been worth marrying Joseph just for Stith to be the third wheel for once. Thankfully, I stifle a cackle before anyone thinks I've gone mad. None of it was ever meant to be, so there is no point on dwelling it. From a makeshift pulpit, the minister thunders out his eulogy, as if the words have descended directly from the heavens. Thomas Paine spoke the truth. These are indeed the times that try men's souls. Haven't we all seen too many summer soldiers and sunshine patriots shrink from the real service to our country? It's the true patriot who sacrifices everything and deserves our utmost love and gratitude. Our beloved Joseph earned that as well as his family. Now they face an arduous task. They must summon the courage from deep within to continue their lives without him. Mr. Blandford lets out a heartbreaking howl that makes me want to howl too. Rocking back and forth in her seat, she keens for her second son. He's been lost for a cause that is all but lost as well. I can't help but hate myself for my weakness. She's entitled to her pain. This preaching convicts me. I haven't lived up to my duty as a patriot. I shrank from telling Mistress Blandford the truth, causing a dear fellow daughter of liberty to suffer more anguish. Surely, real heroines like Molly Pitcher and Sybil Ludington wouldn't have faced such a task without focusing on their own discomfort. Alas, I certainly did not. I have no right to dream of fame and glory after my shameful behavior. In spite of my lofty daydreams, I proved myself yet another summer soldier and sunshine patriot. Yes, the war certainly has tried my soul, but my burdens are far lighter than so many others. I hang my head, weeping over a boy I barely knew. Somehow it doesn't count as a heart-wrenching loss. When the service concludes, the crowd remains hushed. Mr. Blandford trudges towards the ceremonial cannon up front. Stooped over it, he carries its weight on its back. Plucking his handkerchief from his pocket, he wipes his face and fires it off with a jarring boom. He stares into the stormy sky as plumes of smoke waft through the air, breaking apart until they disappear. It's a matter of moments. They're gone, just like Joseph. After drying his eyes for a second, Mr. Blandford haltingly lumbers off, still weighed by the invisible burden. Mother rushes to comfort the weeping Mistress Blandford. Then Mistresses Harrison and Bland. The other guests fan out onto the grass and survey the mouth-watering spread. Joseph's little sister, Louise, passes out Auntie Ruth's desk cakes wrapped in the funeral notice. Offers a sip of spirits. Betsy clings to my arm, sobbing into her lacy linen handkerchief. Woe to us, cousin, yet another potential beau is gone, and from such a fine family. Perhaps it's time for us to accept our destiny. Where have the girls gone with the cakes? Old maids don't have to keep up proper figures, so I may as well indulge myself. My hands tingle with an intoxicating desire to box my dear cousin's ears. Instead, I ask, when did you last see Joseph? I fight to keep my tone even, but there's an edge of bitterness nonetheless. When I was young, I think, tears roll down her rosy cheeks, and she daintily blows into her lace handkerchief. I spit back a retort. Wasn't that before the war even started? Yes, I suppose, she says. She fluffs her handkerchief and buries her nose in it, emitting a rather unladylike honk. If I weren't already so annoyed, I would have needled Betsy about her blatant breach of etiquette. Due to her prim deportment, such opportunities are rare and must be celebrated. Well, then why are you weeping over a stranger? I certainly hope that I don't act like this when I'm 16. This is such foolishness. I've lost hope, that's why. I'm afraid there won't be anything left to marry by the time this horrid war ends. She lets out a loud wail and bursts into a fresh round of tears, gesturing towards the somber knot of widow. I can't resist scolding her. Hush, Betsy, you're only crying for yourself. Everyone else is here because they're sad for Joseph and his family. Since you're the only one sad for yourself, you should have stayed home and hosted your own pity party there. Betsy glares at me. Turning her back, she crosses her arms with a flourish and tilts her nose into the air, Of course, I'm just as guilty, but at least I actually knew Joseph before the war. More importantly, he asked me about several times recently. He asked about me, and he was Stith's best friend. Stith losing Joseph must be devastating for him. I pray this won't break his spirit. The war has tested him far too long. Okay, I'm going to stop here. So they're at the funeral of Joseph, and um, Susanna is beginning to wonder why she isn't doing more for the war effort.